I'm over replays. They're not going to work. Why even do them? You're wasting our time at this point. Christian Gokel alongside PJ Zuko here on second down. Really happy to have you alongside. It may not sound like it, sound a little snarky coming in, but when you have all the slow motion cameras in the world and you're the highest form of your sport and you have like a control room where people are reviewing this and you still get it wrong, what's the point? Braves fall to the Yankees 5-4 last night. Freddie Freeman, quote unquote, thrown out at the plate early in the game where he was pretty clearly safe. So now we've seen multiple times in multiple sports where everyone in the world knows that the call should go one way, but the officials decide to back the other officials and keep the call the same way. I don't think anybody gets a worse rap, and probably for good reason, than baseball umpires, because there's some bad ones, like especially with the balls and strikes, like
For sure.
like incredibly bad.
But like there's some bad ones there, but you don't get a second and third and fourth chance to call those.
Yeah, on balls and strikes, you don't know. Like
I can understand that,
but
I get that.
yeah, but still, like with the stuff where it's slow motion and you got the glove going down towards the guy, you see it's clearly not on him, and his foot's on the base, and you're like, I don't know. I feel like one fiber from that glove may have brushed against one hair from his arm. So yeah, that's an out.
Is that the way this works? No, I mean, yeah, no, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Like you said, I am an advocate for instant replay in sports, no doubt. Like I will battle with people.
I'm an advocate for the premise of replays in sports.
Right, if you get it right. But I mean, that's the thing. You got to, like, why do we stop the game? Why do we take this time to figure it out? It's so that we can get it right. And again, like you said, it's amazing that literally the entire world can look at those replays like last night's and say that's incredibly obvious. It's incredibly obvious that that's safe. And however many guys are sitting in the room looking at the replay agree with the people at the field. And my only thought process when it comes to that is possibly, yeah, there you go.
I mean, foot pretty clearly on the bag. Oh, hold on.
I got you.
Internet buffer.
Possibly for whatever reason, the guys in the replay booth making that decision, calling it back to the field, don't have the intestinal fortitude to say, yeah, okay, overturn this.
Oh, this is the best.
This is a little too close to call. We're not going to overturn it. Then what's the point? Like, why we have replay is because it's too close to call for us, normally viewing the game. Like, overturn it. The undisputable evidence and everything like that, I think you talk about college football and NFL, you have that terminology and you hear it every single game and every single replay. That's the reason, though, that we have these replays is to take those calls that you are kind of uncomfortable and then you don't really want to overturn them because what you're seeing in front of you is right, is correct.
Well, I think that's so much of like a brotherhood thing where they're trying to protect other officials and they're like, oh, well, we don't want our guys to seem like they got it wrong. It's like, well, no, you should be there as a fail-safe, as a backup. Like, I would feel more comfortable, like, calling these close plays if I knew, like, hey, if we need to, we can go back, take a look, somebody else will be able to slow this down. Like, I get it. It's going 1,000 miles an hour, but I mean, when you're the Braves and every game matters and every run matters in a game like this, you lost this game by 1 run.
Yeah.
And I think you can literally say Major League Baseball cost the Braves a game.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they lost the possibility of extending the game and going on and winning it, for sure.
And again, this picture, the best part of the picture that we're looking at, you can find it on Twitter, is it was shot from someone's cell phone from like 380 feet away.
Yeah. From like the upper decks, apparently.
And so again, you are the premier. There's nothing higher than you in your sport. You're as big as it gets. and you don't have the camera angles or ability to call this stuff. I think if there had to be like 4 locations in baseball that you would need the camera to be able to see everything, like pylon cam
right.
in football,
Yeah.
is home plate, first, second, and third base.
Yep.
And if you needed them anywhere.
Yeah, and not just one angle of each of those. I mean, you gotta have a few different ones.
I mean, the Astros had a better camera system apparently when they were cheating
exactly.
than you do as Major League Baseball to officiate your games.
And it blows my mind that we're still running into that situation of, well, if that was the case here, if they truly didn't have an angle like this one, that, you know, I know
of all the TV broadcasts I saw last night, none of them were this clear.
I know we're in radio production and whatnot, and not necessarily television, but I feel like there's a way you can get these angles. Like that, there's enough money.
Oh, there is.
There's enough money floating around where you could get an extra camera or two at each stadium, so that you have this possibility. It's laughable.
Well, it kills me. Like in college, it's certainly in high school, but in college, I get it if you miss a call, right? I get it. Not everyone in the Sun Belt is going to have the same level of replayability as someone in, I don't know, SEC, right? You just don't have the same cameras on hand during those games for them to review. And I don't know. I'd be interested to see what the rules are for what officials can use. I think they're allowed to use the TV shots to go back and watch, but I don't think they have like a central hub like you do in a lot of professional sports where it's like, hey, we're going to go back to New York and check this. So you literally have a base of operations where their entire job is to slow video down and get the call right, and they're still getting it wrong.
Yeah.
Like, and again, the only thought I can have, because I am assuming they all can see what we're seeing, the only logical explanation is they don't want the number of overturned calls to get high, because then people start questioning umpires more and more and more. And so at the end of the year, we can have the outcry about this for the next 24 hours, but at the end of the year, it's going to go in as a we got it right call.
Yeah.
I think in every professional sport, you need an independent organization that's not a part of the officials, that's part of Major League Baseball. And even if you want to, make it a group that judges the officials, and they need to be in charge. I think when you tie this in and you have a bunch of officials working with officials, they're going to back their officials when they want to.
Yeah, I can see that. I think if that's true, which it very much could be, and probably is I don't know. It's laughable to me, but I get it. You know, it's laughable to me, but I understand why they would be doing that, trying to protect, you know, their guys, quote unquote. But
if it's close, they're always what's what they say is, there's no definitive evidence, so we can't overturn it.
That's why, again, like that's why we have the replay in the first place, because we're trying to figure it out, and you know, we didn't have definitive evidence on the field. It's probably going to be a little close even still with the replay, but make the call. Like that's why we have you here. Anyway, to me, it's crazy that it goes to the point of, like you're saying, you don't want to get that overturn rate higher, because then people start questioning and whatever.
Oh, they're already questioning. I mean, like now we have like Twitter.
I mean, you're questioning more because they didn't call the right thing on the replay.
Sure. Well, you have like the pitching ninja on Twitter, who a ton of people follow him, but he does like the overlays with the pitching, but he'll roast some umpires. But now one of my favorite accounts to follow on Twitter is the umpire scorecards.
Yeah.
Where they break down they have the zone, they have the strike zone, and they break down the percentage of calls they got correct where they're calling balls and strikes. And then they like put out the 3 biggest pitches of the game and whether or not they got those right or wrong. Yeah. And they'll put like the 3 most egregious ones. And it's bad.
Yeah, I gotta follow that account.
No, it's I found it at the beginning of this season. I was like, this is amazing, because I watch, any baseball fan does, you watch the game and you're like, that dude cost us like 3 or 4 outs.
Yeah.
Because he's calling pitches that are clearly off the plate strikes.
Right.
Or like, hey, we maybe got lucky there, because that seemed like it was a little outside, but they called it a strike and we got out of it. So I do think that's the one argument a lot of like the purist baseball fans use is like, oh, it evens out. it evens out. Like you're going to get some calls, they're going to get some calls. As long as the umpire's strike zone is consistent, right? If it's consistently wide or they're calling the same pitch. Again, high school, college, middle school, fine. When you're
Yeah.
at the pinnacle of the sport and people are getting paid $500 million to play your sport, I think you can invest in something that's a little bit more consistent than a dude whose strike zone you just kind of cater to, and it's going to be different on a nightly basis. That's where I'm at with that. I know that ticks off a lot of baseball fans, but it is what it is. I'm over it. I've seen it so many times, not just with the balls and strikes, but like we saw last night, Freddie Freeman clearly being safe. I mean, look, you could see the dude's face is like 4 feet away from the catcher's butt and Freddie Freeman's butt and the glove of the catcher. Like Gary Sanchez's glove is about a foot away from Freddie Freeman, and Freddie Freeman's foot is on the bag. How'd you miss that, guys?
Yeah, that's rough.
How'd you miss that? We got more to come here, though, on Second Down. We got some college football news to dive into, and a lot of NFL news to dive into as well. And maybe we may have discovered what's the best job just in the history of the universe. We'll dive into all that when we come back next, right here on Second Down. Second Down on ESPN Radio is presented to you by the Uniforms. Christian Gokel, glad to have you hanging out with us here on ESPN Radio. So much more to dive into on the show today. Big show coming up today on 3 and Out. The guys will be joined by Ben Ingram of the Braves Radio Network. Braves still undefeated on the road since the guys were allowed to get back out and follow them. I know last year, in a vast majority of this season, having to call the games back from Truist Park when the Braves went out and played on the road. So really excited to have Ben Ingram on. We'll talk to him about that. We'll talk to him about what was a tough series, but one, again, you feel like you could have won at least one of those games against the Yankees, and still 10 games over 500. Didn't lose any ground in the NL East last night because both the Mets and the Phillies both lose. So you still have a 4.5 game lead in the NL East right now. So catch up with Ben Ingram about that. Also, Chris Burnett, former Georgia offensive lineman, going to join us in the 5 o'clock hour. Talk about that big matchup. It's almost game week for Georgia and Clemson. So we'll talk to Chris Burnett about that. So much more to get to here on ESPN Radio. But as I mentioned going into the previous segment, PJ Zuko had to step away. He'll be back with us soon. I think we may have discovered what the best job in the history of the universe is. And listen, you get paid millions of dollars. You don't have a ton of responsibility. And basically your work week is Monday through Friday, but pretty laxed once you get towards the end of the week. Bosses aren't on you a ton, and there's a guy in front of you who really all the pressure falls on him. And basically, so long as you're there in the meetings with him and you're there supportive and you're clapping him on the back when he gets done doing his job, you're going to get paid. Then your teammates are going to love you. You actually don't even have to do a job you used to have to. We're talking about the backup quarterback position for the Atlanta Falcons. And the job they don't have to do anymore is they don't have to hold any, because it's become the new wave to have the punters go ahead and hold. Why is it the backup quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons? Well, it's because Matt Ryan's been here since 2008. And out of 208 games that Matt Ryan should have started, he started in 205 of them. So he's only missed 3 starts in his career. He missed 2 back in 2009. And then in 2019, if the Falcons had been good, I feel like he plays in that game, but the Falcons were bad. And he missed 1 game back in 2019. Every other season, 16 out of 16 for Matt Ryan. So think about that. You're the backup quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons that whole time. That's 208 games. You just have to worry about 3 of them. And obviously, you have to be ready in case Matt goes down. But at what point are you like, this guy, Cal Ripken out there, showing up every single day? And again, you get to collect those paychecks. You get to wear the headset on the sideline. You get to look good, hold a clipboard, and you get to slap Matt on the back when he comes to the sideline. And no pressure falls on you. It's all Matt Ryan's fault. No one's clamoring for your job to be replaced when Matt Ryan throws an interception. They're not clamoring to take Justin Fields to replace you. You're just the backup, man. I mean, Matt Schaub did it for a bunch of years. TJ Yates there for a little while as well. Now it looks like it could be Felipe Franks. A lot of people thought it was going to be A.J. McCarron, but he goes down with a knee injury. It looks like he's going to be done for the season. So the Falcons have taken a flyer on former first-round pick Josh Rosen, who's bounced around the league since playing with Arizona. Remember, Arizona drafted him in the first round, and then the very next year went and got Kyler Murray to replace him. And since then, Josh Rosen's bounced around. He had a cup of coffee down in Tampa, I think last seen with the 49ers. So really been bouncing around the league. Now he's with the Atlanta Falcons. So your quarterback depth chart is Matt Ryan, Felipe Franks, and Josh Rosen. I know Felipe Franks has got a lot of really good reviews coming out of camp, but I don't know if you're ready to turn the ball over to Felipe Franks if something does happen to Matt. So a lot of people, I think, thought they were going to go out and get a proven veteran, just somebody who can execute the offense. But we've seen Arthur Smith in the past do these kind of reclamation projects on quarterbacks. Remember, Ryan Tannehill played in Miami. There were so many things wrong with the Miami Dolphins that weren't Ryan Tannehill because he was a quarterback. Everything fell on him. Takes him to Tennessee, and all of a sudden you're playing in AFC championship games. And Ryan Tannehill's getting a new contract and throwing for thousands upon thousands of yards. And I think a lot of people consider him a top 15 at least quarterback in the NFL, which who would have thought that? So I think Arthur Smith's looking at Josh Rosen as a guy who has a ton of talent, and I think he's looking at him the same way he looks at this Falcons offense, which is why I feel like he decided to roll with Matt Ryan instead of trying to rebuild with Justin Fields. Is he looks at this as something where I'm better at this than the people who have tried to do this before. I'm better than Dirk Cutter at calling plays for Matt Ryan, right? I can get more out of Matt Ryan than what these previous OCs, maybe outside of Kyle Shanahan, but I can get more out of Matt Ryan than what a lot of these previous offensive coordinators were able to get out of him. I feel like he's saying the same thing with Josh Rosen. I could get more out of Josh Rosen than Cliff Kingsbury could. Right, I do better with quarterbacks in the NFL than most other people. I can make this work, which I love that personality trait, especially in my NFL head coach. I'm smarter and I can do this better. I don't want someone going into the game going, that guy on the other sideline, he sure knows a lot more about football than I do. I'm just kind of grateful to be here on the field today. It's going to be rough, guys. They're already out in front of us. No, I like the fact that Arthur Smith believes in himself that much. I know we talked about this on 3 and Out in the week. The audio that the Falcons released when Arthur Smith was mic'd up, getting after it. There's no coach bro. There's no slapping people on the back. There's no the thing from the Mike Smith era was the 30 and up club where, listen, if you're over 30, you don't have to worry about practice too much, right? It is what it is. You show up, you've been in the league long enough, you know what you're doing. I think we have that Arthur Smith audio. I want to play that because, again, just such a different vibe from Arthur Smith. Again, this is courtesy of the Atlanta Falcons. Arthur Smith mic'd up with the Atlanta Falcons in practice.
Too damn lethargic. Let's look at the ball, get 5 in the huddle with the quarterback, and let's go. Pay attention. We got 700 people here to help you. Know the personnel going in the next play. Have 5 ready. Hammer it. Come off the ball and throttle somebody. Next play. Wasting time. Hey, turn it up, D. Get out of the way, Russ. What are your rib pads, Russ? If you're going to go in there and block those, you better get your rib pads. Next play. We're going to see if you can play pro football. Next play. Next play. Hey, we got 2 yards. Congratulations. Get back in the huddle. We got 2 yards and we're throwing a party. That's your expectation. There it is. There it is. I didn't know if he was really at fault. I just saw him get throttled him.
I love that. That makes me happy. Hearing that from an Atlanta Falcons coach, so many times we have talked about this. What's been the biggest thing with the Falcons? It hasn't been, oh, you need another receiver for Julio Jones. It hasn't been, oh, we need a left guard. It hasn't been, we need a pass rusher. Where's the toughness from this team? When was the last time you saw the Atlanta Falcons come out of a game and you were like, they're the tougher team? They can out-scheme you. Obviously, they've been able to out-talent some people in the past. But at times, if you come out of a game and you were like, the Atlanta Falcons took it to that team. I'll say this for the Jacksonville Jaguars. People like to make fun of the Jaguars. I saw a great meme today. This was basically a personal injury attorney questioning. He's like, you could be entitled to a little bit of money if you've been a Jaguars fan your entire life just because of the emotional distress they've caused you. But the Jacksonville Jaguars have had seasons where people were afraid to play them. And I say that with all seriousness. Yeah, you had Blake Bortles as your quarterback, but look at that defense. You had Calais Campbell leading that defensive line. You had Jalen Ramsey in the secondary. You had all kinds of high, just power hitters and the linebacking core and playing safety, right? Barry Church playing safety. Like, you had dudes who would come up and smack you in the mouth. When was the last time the Atlanta Falcons just had that kind of level of respect in terms of toughness, in terms of physicality? I don't know that they ever have, which is stunning to say. You've had elite offenses, and you've had good defenses. You've had serviceable defenses that can make a stop. When was the last time, offensively or defensively, you were like, that team is physical? I think the closest you could talk about is the beginning of Matt Ryan's career when you have Michael Turner and Roddy White outside and Tony Gonzalez. They pound the football. I mean, Michael Turner was getting some yards on the ground, but again, defensively, not a whole lot going on. But yeah, you had John Abraham, Jonathan Babineau. Outside of that, not a whole lot going on that side of the ball. So I'm really excited about Arthur Smith this season. I think that's one thing we just keep passing over. And a lot of our judgments on the Atlanta Falcons come from previous conceptions around previous coaches. And so the slow starts, blowing leads, all that I know we're still applying in our minds to the Atlanta Falcons. And for me, still, until I see it, I'm going to apply they're not as tough as other teams. But I think we keep missing the fact that they do have a new head coach. They do have a new GM in Terry Fontenot, right? Dean Pease is calling plays for this defense and installing a defensive identity for the Atlanta Falcons. I think that's a big deal going into 2021 and a storyline we have to keep an eye out on. We got more to come here on Second Down, though. We got some more NFL news to dive into and also a lot of college football news to dive into as well. More to come here on Second Down after this. Second Down on ESPN Radio is presented to you by the Uniform Source. Christian Gokel, glad to have you hanging out alongside PJ Zuko. Chris Collinsworth sliding into the chair beside me as this segment begins. PJ, we got some college football news to dive into. Also, a lot of NFL news, some headlines to dive into. But I want to give you a stat of the day. Are you in a good mental place for a stat of the day right now?
I don't know if I'm ever in a good mental place, but I'm ready to go. I'm
That's
ready to hear it.
Completely fair. All right. Are you aware who Nolan Ryan is?
I've heard of him.
All-time legendary pitcher.
Yeah.
Dude throw like 140 pitches in a complete game.
It's pretty all right.
No problem. Then he'd beat you up if you charge the mound, right?
Yeah.
One of the all-time greats. Here's a stat of the day for you. This is from Super 70 Sports on Twitter. Nolan Ryan's ERA was 3.09 the year the White Album came out. The Beatles.
Another great.
Yeah, I mean, legendary album.
Yeah.
His ERA was 2.91 the year Nirvana released Nevermind.
Okay.
You talk about some consistency?
Insane.
And I just went and looked just for giggles.
Goodness gracious.
At some of Tom Brady's stats from early in his career, and actually didn't throw for more than 30 touchdowns until 2007, where he threw for 50. But
the Randy Moss effect.
Yes, but in 2000, I think also I'd say, was it? Yeah, Charlie Weiss, the Charlie Weiss effect.
Yeah,
back in
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
just slinging that old rock around.
Absolutely.
2002. Do you care to guess which band had the number one song during that time?
Oh man.
Billboard Top 100 number one song in 2002.
Was this? I know around this time, like, well, I don't know if this was a comeback or not. Like, around this time, like, oh man, I'm trying to think, because you have a lot of bands obviously that were popular with like the younger crowd.
This is how you remind me.
Was Creed?
No, Nickelback. I appreciate the effort there.
It's the same. It's the same voice. When people sing
close.
Nickelback and Creed, it's the same voice. I'm sorry.
It's close. No,
I didn't let you sing enough.
Nickelback had the number one song of 2002, the year Tom Brady first threw for more than 20 touchdown passes. Flash forward to now. Fast forward to now, PJ.
All I'm saying is, for everyone who wants to make fun of Nickelback or whatever and how terrible they are, they have the number one song in America in 2002.
Yeah, I don't think Nickelback cares about people making fun of them.
All I'm saying is, someone had to like them, right?
They can't hear your complaints over all that money. So that's where Nickelback's at with that. But no, so 2002, when Tom Brady first threw for over 20 touchdown passes, Nickelback, number one song on the radio.
Yep.
Fast forward to now.
Crazy.
Last year, Tom Brady thrown for 40 touchdowns in 2020.
Yeah, 40 touchdowns in 2020. And
so what would we say, like Olivia Rodrigo's driver's license? So you went from Nickelback to Olivia Rodrigo.
I was going to say, now we don't play bands on the radio anymore, so rock music's kind of gone.
PJ, getting very get off my lawn-ish here. You're sitting in Kevin's chair. I mean, that's what happens. But we have some football headlines to dive into. I want to go through these quickly here. Haynes King, I think a lot of people expected this, but Haynes King announced as the starter from an ESPN radio affiliate out in Texas. Jimbo Fisher joining them, saying Haynes King is going to be our guy going forward. So you have that. I know there's a few people think they might rock with the freshman out there, but they're going with Haynes King. Pac-12, I thought this was a pretty interesting announcement from them. George Klikoff, who is their new-ish commissioner, saying, quote, "We'll announce a decision on whether or not we're going to be looking at expansion before the end of this week. That decision has been run on a parallel path to the conversations with Big Ten Commissioner Kevin Warren and ACC Commissioner Jim Phillips in the Big Ten and the ACC. I think if I had to read into that, they're not going to be expanding. Maybe they were thinking about it before this alliance came out, but I think this is the group in the alliance of the status quo. This is the group and alliance that want to keep college football and college athletics as quote unquote normal as possible. So I would not expect the Pac-12 to announce that they are going to be looking to add teams. This one I thought was interesting from Ohio State. They announced that every student, faculty, and staff member will be required to be vaccinated against COVID-19. The university is taking this step because vaccines are the safest and, quote, most effective form of protection against COVID-19. So that coming out of Ohio State, kind of on the flip side of that statement. And we saw yesterday LSU saying that you would either have to provide proof of vaccination or a negative COVID test to get into Tiger Stadium. Sanford Stadium will require or not require mask, proof of vaccination, or a negative COVID test. So a lot of people saying a return to normal for Sanford Stadium there. So as we're getting closer to college football, you're seeing a lot of these plans finalized. I know most leagues now have said if your team has to forfeit a game, that's a loss because you have too many COVID cases. That's a loss.
Right.
It's not a cancellation. It's not a we'll postpone and replay it. It's a loss in your your L column and a W in the other team's column. So I mean, I think it's interesting. So as we're getting closer, we're seeing a lot of this stuff get finalized.
Yeah, and at least we're seeing things get announced and finalized, and whether you agree with the rules or disagree with what's going on now, at least you have everything out in front of you, and to the point of what you're saying with, like you said, with the leagues saying, all right, if we have to move a game, we're not going to move games. If we have to cancel one because especially of these issues, then sorry, it's just going to be a loss. I think that's, a good point. I think that's kind of them saying we can't do everything we did last year. And there are, whether you agree with it or not, again, there are avenues around, like we've provided safe ways for you to go about your life and safe ways to kind of steps to take to make sure you don't get this.
I wonder how many rules we are going to see change now, because it's not a coincidence at all that you see these rules get put into place after the FDA approved the Pfizer vaccine.
Right.
Like it's not a coincidence at all that Ohio State, I mean, it's in the name, it's a public school. Ohio State mandates this. LSU, same thing. It's Louisiana State. It's not, there's no secret. It's the FDA, the federal government, approved the Pfizer vaccine. It's not on a emergency approval anymore. It's federally approved. And so for all the people out there who are saying, well, we want to wait until it actually gets cleared, not the emergency clearance. We want to wait until the FDA actually approves it. All the schools now there is no legal literature in front of them saying you can't do this because it's an emergency approval. No, now it's cleared. Just like any other medication, it is cleared. And so now legally, specifically these public schools are allowed to do it. I think private schools for the most part are too. It's just it won't be at a state level. It's school by school basis. But now the states, I mean, I think Louisiana just announced that it's not just going to games. I think they're going to require the COVID-19 vaccination for anyone going to a public university in Louisiana as we try to curb the tide of this Delta variant inside of our country, which in the southern states, which obviously we're in and which we cover for the most part, we're seeing a huge uptick right now in COVID-19 cases. I know in Savannah, Mayor Van Johnson shutting down any public application for an event. And I think going all the way through, I want to say the 20th of September, I am not entirely sure, but late into September, any permits that had already been approved, they've canceled those. And now we've seen multiple school systems around our area shut down on that as well. I mean, Glenn County schools are going to virtual learning. We already saw McIntosh County schools go to virtual learning.
Right.
It hasn't affected athletics yet, which is obviously our purview.
Where
there's been some, not cancellations, but some games rescheduled. But for the most part, like Ware County, they shut down schools for a while, but the athletics teams were allowed to keep competing. Glenn County schools, I can pull up the exact quote, but Glenn County schools going to distance learning, but they're going to allow band and athletics to keep going just with new mandates in place for those. So it seems like some decisions are being made, but obviously like last year, we're going to have to be fluid. Going through this fall and winter.
You're going to have to wake up and expect something new every time you do. I mean, that's the only way to go about this. And hopefully, as you said, at the end of the day, we're all trying to trying to curb this thing and we're trying to stop it.
Right.
And hopefully we stop seeing these numbers go up, and then we can get back to some more normalcy. But yeah, not if you really look into some of these decisions, not insanely surprising. With some of them with the state schools and things like that.
I haven't seen any of them where I was like, wow, shocking.
Yeah, exactly. So
I think for the most part, with LSU deciding what they're doing and with Georgia deciding what they're doing, I don't think either one of those surprised me.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see
segueing from that to NFL news.
That all works out. Yeah.
Segueing from that to NFL news. We already mentioned the Falcons signing Josh Rosen. He has shown up. He's already in practice with the Atlanta Falcons. The Rams traded 2 conditional draft picks, I believe a conditional 5th and 6th, to the New England Patriots for Sony Michel. Something about those Georgia running backs and the Rams, man.
Yeah.
Todd Gurley getting it done out there for the Rams for all those years. Now they get Sony Michel. You know who's coaching Sony Michel out there?
No idea.
Thomas Brown.
How about that?
Former Georgia running back and former coach at Georgia. So
probably had some sway there.
You think a little bit?
I don't know about the actual decision.
He actually,
I think he'll be happy about it.
He coached Sony while Sony was at Georgia.
Yeah. So no, I mean that's big for sure. And Sony Michel too. I think with New England, the only position they've really had a plethora of options at is at that running back spot.
New England doesn't care about having a featured back.
Exactly. They have a lot of pretty good backs that they can rotate around, and that's what they're gonna do. So letting one go at the end of the day isn't huge for them. Obviously, they get some compensation for him.
They have Damian Harris right now up there. They have a couple other guys they really like. Is Rex Burkhead still?
I'm not sure
hanging around in New England.
I'm not sure if he is. I'm wondering if James White's still up there or not, because he's been obviously making huge plays for them for a while now. So
every Falcons fan remembers.
Yeah, but I mean, I am looking forward to seeing what Sony does with the Rams at the end of the day, because like this is not his production has decreased, so we're letting him go kind of
right.
Thing. Very solid back. So Matt Stafford out there with the Rams now could be pretty exciting. And if you remember, I believe Sony Michel was the one that gave the Patriots the Super Bowl over the Rams.
Yeah, he's the only one who scored a touchdown in that Super Bowl.
Touchdown, yeah,
he's the only one who scored a touchdown in that Super Bowl. I'm trying to think. I know.
Maybe they just had that like playing in their nightmares for the last few years. So they're like, what do you do with your enemies that just keep beating you?
Yeah.
Make them your friend, right?
Bring them in. Yeah, he'll probably have to look at when Aaron Donald comes into the cafeteria when Sony Michel's in there for the first time.
Yeah.
Might be some words.
Right.
Mostly from Aaron Donald, because if Aaron Donald talks to you, don't talk back.
Well, but also
say yes, sir.
What does Sony Michel have to say? Like, yeah, you
just like flash the
that's it.
Flash the ring.
All I'm saying is if you won in a situation like that, you don't have to defend yourself when someone comes at you like all mad because they lost or whatever. And that's what a lot of
you do have to defend yourself when it's Aaron Donald, because he'll end you.
To that point, how do you defend yourself against Aaron Donald?
You apologize.
I don't think you do.
You apologize.
How can you apologize while you're still wearing the ring? I don't.
You say, I hate that I'm wearing this.
Sure.
It's the biggest mistake of my life, sir.
See, then I would take that as more of an insult, because now I know you're lying to me.
I'm not lying. Of course,
I'm not Aaron Donald.
I'm not lying. Like, that Super Bowl was not worth the situation right now. It is. I would not be lying. That is a scary human being. And also, talk about the least surprising news of the day. The Jacksonville Jaguars have named Trevor Lawrence as their starting quarterback. So in a relief.
What?
Yeah. In a relief to Gardner Minshew's bowels, he can finally relieve himself.
All right. Well, in that case.
Do I have to explain the joke?
No, I don't think you do. I'm trying to remember what it's from, though.
No, I feel like I do. I feel like you're not the only one out there. Gardner Minshew at the beginning of this battle said he's so not okay with number 2 that he's not even using the toilet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Gardner.
No, for sure.
And I don't even think, like, if you want to extrapolate anything from this, I don't think Trevor Lawrence, quote unquote, earned the starting job. I don't think his play, I mean, everything I've seen from practice, all the games that I've watched, his play hasn't been significantly better than any of the other quarterbacks.
No.
I just think if it's all even, Trevor Lawrence is the starting quarterback. Yeah. I do legitimately think if Gardner Minshew had come out and balled out and been really good, and you would have given the Jaguars a chance to win some ball games and let Trevor Lawrence work through a few weeks of game prep, they would have probably given Gardner 2 or 3 weeks to start before handing it over to Trevor. But I just think everything was so even. Gardner didn't have a great preseason. Beathard didn't have a great preseason. Lawrence didn't have a great preseason. And eventually, does that come back to the quarterbacks, or does that come down to the guy calling plays? I guess that's a whole nother question. But I don't feel like Trevor Lawrence, quote unquote, earned this starting job. I feel like it was just, if it's all even, we're going to go with the name.
It was given to him for sure. I obviously will never know because Minshew didn't go out there and ball out by any means. I somewhat disagree with your take there. Just because I don't think in any realm, I don't know. I don't see you drafting Lawrence number 1 overall. And even if Minshew goes out there and balls out, you give Minshew the job. I think maybe if Minshew goes out there and balls out, that makes it more easy to trade him. And then you trade him and give Lawrence the job. But
I don't know, man. You draft a number 1 overall pick, and it's the future cornerstone of your franchise, and you have a shaky offensive line in front of them, and you can give that
like that for sure.
You can give that a couple of weeks to settle out and maybe win a couple ball games there as well. I think Urban Meyer, if he had it the way he really wanted it, obviously it's that Trevor Lawrence is amazing and he can start day 1 and he's going to be phenomenal.
Yeah.
But I think realistically, he was thinking, if Gardner Minshew can come out here and give us something and show us something for a couple of games, and just give me 2 game weeks,
right,
to let Trevor Lawrence really get used to this and us to figure out the offensive line rotation versus, hey, let's go play the Texans, who they're not great, but I mean, it's an NFL defensive line and we're still trying to figure out our offensive line, but let's go put our franchise quarterback out there and wish him luck.
Yeah. I don't know. I just, you hear so many stories about the psyche of a quarterback, especially a new quarterback in the NFL. And that's where that would start to worry me. Like, you draft Trevor Lawrence number 1 overall. He thinks he's the guy. He thinks it's going to be his job. And then you bench him for a few weeks for Gardner Minshew. And then you try and bring him back in. What if those games don't go that well?
Yeah.
So then do you bench him again? Or you start to get into that whole
once you put him in, you got to leave him. Which is why I thought maybe you start with Gardner for the first couple of games and then go Trevor, because now, like you said, if he goes out there and he struggles, you're just gonna have to eat it and you're gonna have to work through it week after week. And it doesn't get easier than those first 2 games.
No,
you start with the Texans,
right? No, it's not.
Yeah.
And CJ Beathard, benching him for CJ Beathard at this point, not
that might hurt the old psyche. We got more to come here on Second Down, though. We'll be right back after this.
Christian, it's okay, man. You don't have to be sad anymore. College football's back.
No, this isn't sad music to
It's
me,
this
TJ.
week.
This is hype music.
Yeah, I know. It's just the beginning. It's the beginning. It's like this part of it is the
No,
sad.
this is gym music right here for me.
Oh, absolutely. Once you get into it, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Big show coming up today on 3 and Out. The guys will be joined by Ben Ingram of the Braves. Oh, sorry, hold on. All right.
Exactly.
Carry on. We got 20 seconds here. Ben Ingram of the Braves Radio Network coming up in the 3 o'clock hour. Going to catch up with Mark Bradley from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution to talk about his latest column around the ACC and the SEC. Then we'll be joined by former Georgia and NFL offensive lineman Chris Burnett in the 5 o'clock hour. Also in the 5 o'clock hour, D. Orlando Ledbetter from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution with the latest from the Atlanta Falcons. All that up next on 3 and Out.